What's poppin', players? Welcome back to a Two Penny Games review, this time for the Callisto Protocol. I am your host, Tavin Bothel, here with my good friend and co-host, Connor Elliott. Say hello to the people, Connor.
Hello, how you doing?
Hello, hello. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have been playing the Callisto Protocol. I beat it the other day, and it's unfortunate to say, but I think the Callisto Protocol is frustratingly disappointing. This is a game that I thought was clearly a Game of the Year contender based off of all the marketing and demos that we had seen. And then as soon as I had gotten my hands on the game, it just did not click for me at all. I think its biggest issue is by far its emphasis on melee combat, and with its combat being focused on a new take on a dodge mechanic that I just think plain doesn't work. It doesn't feel good. I feel like I get hit when I shouldn't have, and almost every single time that I died in this game, which was a lot, it never felt earned. It never felt deserved. It never felt like I learned anything. I was just constantly frustrated at the game, yelling at the game, angry at the game, and it didn't feel good to play. On top of that, I don't think its narrative or its story is anything interesting. It's pretty generic, and its final moments are some of the most disappointing. It's one of the most disappointing video game endings I've played in a while, with one of the worst final bosses I've played in a long time. There is just so much promise with the Callisto Protocol, and I don't think it's a terrible game, but I just cannot recommend it.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna ask, was it at least scary?
No.
Have some good horror elements?
Oh,
No?
that's that, and that might be its even biggest its biggest offense is that it is, for a survival horror game, I don't feel like I'm surviving, and I'm never scared. Its opening hours are so incredibly frustrating because they only give you their bare bones gameplay loop, which I don't think is fun or satisfying. And they do that thing that some video games do where there are core mechanics and core abilities and moves that are very much important to gameplay that they don't give you until a few hours in. So these open, and it's a short game. It's only about 10 hours long. At least that's about how long as it took me to play. 10 to 12, somewhere around there. And I just think, where was I going with that? Its core gameplay loop, I think, just fails to be entertaining, and those opening hours where you don't have those very important abilities leads to just so much incredible frustration and anger. Like, I was just constantly getting annoyed at the game. My first play session is up on the channel right now, youtube.com/twopennygames, where you can see me react to the first hour of the game, and I leave that game session going, ooh, I don't know about this. I'm gonna keep going and keep trying, but I really don't know. And I'm afraid, the first, I want to say 3 to 4 hours of this game, I was really just dragging my feet through and forcing myself to play. And then it does the thing where, like that, it flips, and then suddenly I'm too powerful. Suddenly I'm not worried about anything. Suddenly I'm not conserving my ammo. I'm not worried about how much damage I'm taking. I'm not worried about how many enemies are in the next encounter. It was just... It went from I feel helpless in a bad way to I feel too powerful. And I think both of those things are the exact, like, pits that you fall in when walking the tightrope that is a survival horror video game. And it fell into both, where, like, in the opening hours, I was angry because I didn't feel like I had a chance, and I didn't feel like the game was being fair. And then in the last half of the game, I felt like the game just wasn't hard. But at the same time, every single time I died, from the beginning of the game to the end of the game, I never, ever felt like it was my fault. I never, ever felt like I screwed up. I never had that feeling of, damn it, I died because of that. Okay, I know what to do now. Never did that happen. It was always like a, fuck, really? Okay, fine, whatever. And also, in the last quarter of the game, which is just like an enemy gauntlet where they just throw waves and waves and waves of enemies at you, it's just annoying to go through. I think in my 10 to 12 hour run, there was 1 hour where I had fun. And it's this hour that you're looking at right now. where I was like, you know what, I'm actually kind of having a good time. The story was starting to ask questions that I was interested in. But then they immediately dropped those questions and started asking other questions that I was not asking and I was not interested in finding the answers to. And there is just nothing about this game that I think is fantastic, except for I'll cut them some slack. The art design and the sound design are really good.
Okay, good.
And the game looks really good. It's a really pretty game. But for all of that, all of the great looking visuals, all of the great sound design, the game fails to build any atmosphere or tension. Like, I'm never tense in this game. Connor, I was scared once.
Oh yeah.
Like, that's a problem, bro. And I'm not like particularly difficult to scare. Like, especially in video games. Like, I think you've seen it while playing Resident Evil 2 where I go, "Oh fuck," and I pause the game and I have to catch my breath.
Yeah,
I'm
you
like,
react
"Oh
like that
shit."
a lot.
Like, "Oh god, I need a second. Hold on." Never once happened in this game. Never once happened in this game. There was one time where one jump scare got me and I went, oh okay. And that was it. Now, granted, this is Dead Space. Like, it's clearly like trying to be Dead Space. It's from the Dead Space creators. It's from Glenn Schofield, who created Dead Space and founded Dead Space. And this is striking distance first game. But from Dead Space veterans, I expect more from this. And granted, Dead Space is not the scariest game of all time. It's more focused on jump scares and, you know, like getting you that quick pop of like, oh, or like, you know, just the grossing you out with its gore, which this game does do. It is disgusting in all the right ways. But I feel like this is incredibly derivative of what Dead Space did over a decade ago. And it just didn't scratch my itch. And honestly, it made me more excited for the Dead Space remake, which I was not super excited for. I was going to play it. I was interested in playing it. But now it's like, oh, well, you didn't scratch my itch. So now I am excited to literally just get that experience again. And then, yeah, like, I mean, on top of that, man, like, I don't even know where to go. With the, where was I? There was a note that I had in my head that I was just fuck it, I'll just move on. Its enemy designs, I think, are super generic and basic and boring. Also, there's not enough diversity in the enemy designs. Almost all of them are defeated and handled the exact same way, where and this goes to my problems with the combat, where probably over 50% of the combat is probably 3/4 of the combat is focused on its melee systems. And not its shooting systems, which really disappointed me because you marketed this game to be a Dead Space successor to the point to where you recreated the shoot the limbs off thing in the game with the shoot the tentacles, which is in the trailers and in the gameplay demo. Like, that is what you were marketing. You were marketing Dead Space, and this is not Dead Space. The melee combat, I think, just fails across the board, where it's bare bones basic, where it's dodge. Okay, hit. Now wait for them. Dodge, hit, rinse and repeat the entire game. Every single enemy, with the exception of a few types. Its dodge mechanic, Connor, easily the worst I've ever seen. Where it's not based off of like a button press, or this is what you're seeing on screen. That's the one enemy type where I'm like, oh, okay, this is actually interesting and different.
Okay.
Because they can like go invisible and cloak, and you know, they crawl on the walls and are spider-like and so forth. But you just run away from them and then they just charge you and you shoot them while they're charging you. That's it. Like, that's all you have to do. I never really felt like I was low on ammo until the end of the game, where they were throwing waves upon waves of enemies at me, but I never was struggling, you know? Like, I was never like, fuck, I have 2 bullets left. I was constantly like, oh, do I have enough bullets for this encounter? Oh, I do. Okay. And then, go ahead.
Was the dodge mechanic even worse than Resident Evil 3's?
Yes. Yes. Oh, by far, yes. So it's not like normal dodge mechanics, where you like press a button or you move to the side and press a button or something like that. It is entirely based on the stick. You are 100% dodging with the stick. It's almost like fighting games, where you just have to push the stick to the left or to the right to dodge a hit. And then most enemies always hit you at least twice. So just don't repeat that same direction. So don't hold left twice. go left, and then go right for those 2 hits, and then attack them. Sometimes they only attack you once. Sometimes they attack you 3 times. There are a couple of enemies that attack you like up to 5 times. But also like just the way that the mechanics work and because they work in that way, only one enemy can attack you at a time.
Oh, yeah.
Like only one. So like you are in a room of like sometimes up to 5 enemies and you only have to worry about one at a time. And honestly, the game is easier when they're throwing more enemies at you because you just dodge those first few moves and then you're hitting, but your hits are carrying across and hitting all of them. So now it's fucking up the timing and the AI doesn't know how to counteract this. So now you're just swinging as much as you want and then just occasionally having to dodge when one figures out that it needs to attack you.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and they open the game by saying there is no timing window for the dodges, which I guess is true, but I think that's a lie because there's a trophy for getting 5 perfect dodges. I got 2. Like throughout my entire course of the game, I got 2 perfect dodges. And I don't even know how to do a perfect dodge. Like it doesn't make sense to me. I sat back and tried for about 20 minutes. I kept reloading a checkpoint with one enemy trying to get this perfect dodge trophy. And I just couldn't get it. Like it just wouldn't happen. And I don't know how to do it. Which I'll admittedly could be the fault as a player, but I think it's mostly the fault of the game design, where sometimes I dodge, I do exactly what the game tells me to do, and I get hit anyway. So what am I doing here? Like, what is the problem here? Where like it was horribly inconsistent. I never felt like the game was giving me enough information to where I understood what was happening. And every time I got hit or every time I died, I was constantly just confused as to why it happened.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to talk about. Go ahead.
I just since I played Dead Space recently, Dead Space 1 and 2, those games look a lot more interesting and entertaining than this by far. It seems like you really are just dodging and doing basic attacks, and it looks like it almost glitches out whenever you go to melee to gun. Like it properly seamlessly go between those two things.
Yeah, I just don't think from a design perspective, I don't think these elements work. I commend them for trying something new. But this is clearly a video game that everyone is going to look at. Other devs are going to look at and go, okay, that's new. That's interesting. What works, what doesn't work. Okay. It doesn't seem like this dodge mechanic, which is the core mechanic of the game, works. So we're not going to do that. I commend them for trying. I commend the experimentation. That's how you get better games later on down the line, is you have games that don't work. It's funny. I've always, the way I've put it in my head is God of War Ragnarok does not have 10 out of 10 combat. It does not have 10 out of 10 story. It does not have 10 out of 10 level design, you know? But pretty much everything sits about an 8. And because everything is at an 8, the entire game gets lifted up to a 10. Nothing in this game hits a 7. So, like, probably every mechanic of the game, other than the visuals and the audio design, are probably sitting at about a 6. And because so much of it's sitting at a 6, the game is a 5. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, does that kind of make sense the way I'm putting it?
No, yeah, I get it. Yeah.
And yeah, I was continuously super, super annoyed. This little, like, force power they give you, also a thing that is super overpowered, where, like, as soon as I got it, I kind of stopped worrying about enemies, and I just started throwing them into spiked walls and stuff. You can see here, I'm just waiting for those cloaked enemies to charge me so that I can pick up an explosive unit and just throw it at them. But I also found that this mechanic super frustrating as well, because it would often pick up it would pick up something that I'm not trying to pick up. Like, I would try to grab an enemy, and instead it would grab, like, a small little crate that's at their feet. And I'm like, I wasn't even aiming at the crate. Why did you grab that? They also don't give you enough, like, energy for that power for it to remain a useful thing in combat. The most effective way is what you just saw, where you dodge, hit. The tentacles pop out, which I want to talk about the tentacles for a second. The tentacles were meant to be the Dead Space, like, shoot the limbs off type thing, where, like, when the tentacles pop out, shoot the tentacles off so that the enemy dies faster and doesn't get stronger. There's, like, a whole mutation subsystem in this game where when the tentacles popped out, you're now on a timer. You have to defeat that enemy before the enemy mutates. And when they mutate, they get stronger, they take more hits, they do more damage. They function exactly the same. It's just now instead of 3 combos, you have to do 5 combos. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And when I say combos, there's no combos. You're just pulling the right trigger every time. There's no like let me there's no like let me play around with mechanics or anything like that. There is a heavy attack. I used it twice, and I just never felt it was very useful. And yeah, see, literally, it's just charging, then you fucking shoot.
Yeah,
Anyways,
yeah.
so you have no choice but to shoot the tentacles. But it's not like you're not like shooting off individual tentacles like you are in Dead Space. You're just shooting them once. And usually the tentacles either pop out of the head or pop out of the chest. So you're just shooting them center mass one time to kill them. And then they die. That's it. So, and once the tentacles are introduced, almost every enemy pops tentacles all the way to the end of the game. Tentacles come up about halfway through the game, and then they carry all the way to the end. And
Not
that's
as fun
pretty much...
as
Not as fun as what?
Sorry, I was didn't mean to cut you off mid-sentence there. Not as fun as like the Las Plagas from Resident Evil, who you just
No!
kind of
Oh, God, no. This game wishes it was that. This game... And this is another thing. This game pulls obvious inspirations from Dead Space, obvious inspirations from Resident Evil 4, obvious inspirations from The Last of Us, and it fails to do anything, even on par with any of those 3 games are doing. Granted, I'm talking about 3 of the greatest games ever made, but like, you're the people who made Dead Space. You know,
So
and
good.
Resident Evil 4 has been around for a minute. Like, I am severely disappointed in this game. And to just put a final note on the thing with the tentacles is like that zeroed in my gameplay experience to the same thing every time. Dodge, hit. Tentacles pop, shoot the tentacles, stomp on them to make sure they don't come back to life. That was it. That was my experience for 5 hours of this game. It was monotonous. It was boring. It was just repetitive in the worst ways. Video games are inherently repetitive, but this is the type of repetition that we talk about as a negative, where we just go, I feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over again, and I don't feel like I'm being challenged. And this, now we're going to get into something super nitpicky that I think only I'm going to complain about, in the ways that only Tavin Bothel complains about things. So right now in the gameplay footage, you're seeing the cool suit that is advertised in the game. You know, this is the suit he's wearing on the main cover of the game. This is what he's just been marketed as in the suit. Which, admittedly, the suit is a cool design. I like the suit. You start the game you get thrown into prison, and so you start in a prison jumpsuit. And I was really frustrated early on because I didn't have a lot of health and I didn't have a lot of inventory space. Side note, one of the worst inventory systems in video games ever.
Oh, really?
Yes. You have to carry money, ammo, and health all within 6 slots, and every slot is equated to each other. So 12 bullets equals 1 med kit, which equals $100. Or an item that you will sell for $100. Like, what? And an item you will sell for $100 equates to the same amount of space as an item you will sell for $1,000. Huh? Like, Resident Evil. You want to be Resident Evil. They do this so much better than what you're doing. I also found the menus terribly confusing and annoying. I got lost a lot, which is weird for a game that is so linear, that I just kept getting lost and not knowing where to go. Also, you know, there's not a lot of emphasis to explore. I never felt like going down, you know, secondary, tertiary hallways did anything for me. I often felt like they were just dead ends every time. Not even a fucking audio log. Like, there was just nothing. Like, and I was just like, so why am I doing this? So back to my nitpick. So I'm really frustrated early on because I don't have enough inventory space and I don't have enough health. So I'm dying fast and I can't carry the things that I want to carry with me. Which is classic survival horror, but this is like restricting into the way to where it's now bad. Like, you've gone too far. You get this suit probably about hour 3 or 4 into the game, and it doubles your health and doubles your inventory. And you get the suit just because you need the suit to go outside. So you didn't earn the suit. You didn't earn the health upgrade. You didn't earn the inventory upgrade. They just gave it to you. So you were intentionally making those early hours frustrating so that I, as the player, would feel relieved when you gave me these things, but I didn't feel like I earned these things. You know, in Resident Evil 2, for example, you have to explore to get inventory upgrades. And they're minimal. They're small. They're pieced out. You get two inventory spaces at a time. So your space goes from 6 to like 18. And, you know, so that feels good to like be like, oh, because I went out of my way to find this inventory upgrade, now I'm stronger, now I'm better, now I can carry more ammo and I can carry another gun and I can carry more health. This game, it's just you hit the point in the story and they go, here you go. That's not rewarding. That's frustrating. It did the opposite, where instead of me going, oh, thank God, now I can carry more items, now I have more health, it did the opposite of, why the fuck did you make me suffer through the first 3 hours of this game? Your game is 10 hours long. You don't have time for me to be frustrated. And you spent the first 3 to 4 being painfully frustrating. And even if I had fun to the end of the game from that point, almost half of your game annoyed the shit out of me. That doesn't justify, you know, giving me the power and making me feel powerful later on, because you made me feel, you just annoyed me early on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a lack of satisfaction that this game seems to bring. You know, it's pretty level.
100%. And I think the story is just super generic and forgettable and boring. It answered questions I wasn't asking. I already said the final boss is awful, and the final boss really is awful. It sucks. It's really bad. And the literally like the last half hour of this game, I would have rather just not played it.
Right.
And so, yeah, I'm so disappointed because for all year I was saying Callisto Protocol is going to be a Game of the Year contender, and it is literally, of all the games I've played this year, this is my least favorite game I've played this year. Like, you couldn't beat Stray, bro. I had a better time with Stray. Like, it's not the worst game I've played this year. Like, I touched Soul Hackers 2. Soul Hackers 2 is a wannabe Persona 5, and it's just not it with none of the charm, none of the fun, none of the cool characters or performances or writing or anything. So that game kind of sucks. This game, like, had the tee up to be great, and it dropped the ball.
You won't be replaying this game then?
No, I will not be replaying this game. And this was the thing where, like, I was looking at the trophies, and like the trophy list is honestly pretty good. It's a pretty good trophy list. There's a trophy for playing the game on the hardest difficulty, which is a garbage trophy, but fine, whatever. There was a glitch happening in the early days of this game where if you just played the game on whatever difficulty you wanted, beat the final boss, and then switched it to hard and walked the 10 feet to the end of the game, you would pop the trophy. Literally the day I beat the game, they patched that out. Which just seems appropriate for just a sour taste in my mouth for this type of game. Like, I was literally texting you guys. I was like, I'm not having a good time, but if this difficulty trophy works, I might play on easy, and I might, you know, turn on some accessibility options and just get all the collectibles and finish my time. No, I refuse. And yeah, oh man, I so badly wanted this game to be dope, and it's just not. And yeah. Oh God, that's what makes it hurt even more, is that I really wanted it to be something special, and it's painful. It's really, really painful. Connor, any other questions you have for Callisto Protocol? Anything that I, maybe failed to mention or maybe didn't explain well enough, or just a question you had in general about it?
I think you touched on it pretty well. Seems like not many positive things to say about this game.
This game hurt me, and it was unfortunate that it just didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for your Callisto Protocol review. Catch us next week for Phil's Marvel's Midnight Suns review, dropping on the channel. This review is also going to be attached to our 2 Penny Games cast, which goes live every Monday at 8 a.m. Central Time. YouTube.com/2pennygames and mainstream podcast services of your choice. My name is Tavin. I reviewed the Callisto Protocol. I can say that. This has been Connor. Until next time, have a great time. Connor, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye.